Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Marion Phillips, Head of Sustainability at Eoghan, and today I want to share with you how we can rethink tourism's impact on local communities, moving from experiences which are simply connected to communities to being truly led by them. So for those of you who aren't familiar with us, Eoghan is a travel platform that connects travelers directly with local travel agencies. And we work with more than 600 DMCs around the world, and our model ensures that at least 85% of the trip values goes directly to local businesses. So, we know tourism is a powerful economic force, supporting 330 million jobs globally and contributing roughly to 10% of global GDP. And beyond economics, it preserves cultural traditions, funds conservation efforts, and can empower communities when done right. But let's be honest, traditional tourism has serious limitations. In many developing destinations, up to 70% of tourism revenue leaks out of local economies. Also, popular sites suffer from over-tourism, losing their authenticity and displacing local residents. This is why we've seen the rise of community-based tourism, which is an approach encouraging community participation in tourism activities and ensures that more revenue stays local. And it supports a traveler experience that's more authentic. But even though it is a major improvement, we can still see that control still isn't fully in local hands. And that's what's really different with community-led tourism. Community-led tourism is about full community ownership and leadership. So locals design, manage, and govern their tourism experience. All profits remain in the community, supporting education, health, and infrastructure. But most importantly, it empowers local voices to shape how tourism develops in their region. So at Eoghan, we've always supported community-based tourism because our business model is about direct local connection, and we also have a strict supplier policy that favors local ownership throughout the supply chain. But we wanted to go further and integrate community-led experiences into Eoghan trips. So we partnered with Planetera, a non-profit organization that connects communities to the tourism marketplace, helping them develop and sustain their own tourism experience. So I wanted to share with you one powerful example of this partnership. The community of Razafindrabe is located in the outskirts of Antananarivo in Madagascar. And there, traditionally, men work in brick productions, while women are seasonal workers. After the rice farming season, many women rely on making and selling handicrafts in local markets to earn an income. And on the photo, you can see Jenny Razija. She's a young Malagasy entrepreneur who saw the potential in these traditions and created an association to help those women by transforming their skills into beautiful products with high-quality material. This activity provided jobs for women through raffia product making and sales. But their income remained dependent on product visibility and demand. So how could they ensure a stable income? And that's where community-led tourism comes in. Through our partnership with Planetera and collaboration with local agencies, Eoghan integrated this women-led social enterprise into our Madagascar travel experiences. So we worked on the ground to co-design immersive experiences linked to their craft. So now when travelers visit, they participate in hands-on workshops, learning basket weaving or traditional cooking techniques that have been passed on for generations. So now these women are not just artisans, they are teachers, leaders, and tourism beneficiaries. And this is how community-led tourism, with market access and support, creates a sustainable income source while preserving traditions. And so we believe in this firmly, which is why within just 1 year, we have connected more than 80 communities with 180 agencies within 14 destinations, and that's just the beginning. But just to be clear, it's not just about market connectivity. Our partnership also includes real operational and financial support. So in the case of Razafin Drabe, we've supported infrastructure and capacity building. So investments in kitchen, weaving spaces, dining areas, which enhance both the visitor experience and also the working conditions. And it's also about skills development, training in storytelling, financial literacy, hospitality, and marketing, equipping community members to manage tourism experiences sustainably. This is the essence on community-led tourism, genuine empowerment that allows communities to share their culture on their own terms while creating meaningful economic opportunities. I believe this represents the future of responsible tourism. As an industry, we have both an opportunity and a responsibility to shape a fairer, more sustainable tourism model. Businesses must prioritize community leadership for real impact. They must meet traveler demand for deeper, more meaningful experiences, and scale community-led tourism to benefit more destinations worldwide. Thank you for your attention, and I'm very happy to discuss the topic further after Rob will share incredible stories about communities.
Thank you so much, Marion, for that insightful presentation, and we'll have a few questions in just a minute. But before we dive into the questions, I would like to invite Rob Holmes to the stage. Rob is the founder at GLP Films, and I very much look forward to hearing about strategic storytelling, empowering community tourism. So over to you, Rob.
Well, it's the third day of ITB Berlin. Appreciate you guys being here and taking the time. It's been a great couple days, and it's always nice to come back to Berlin and be here with everyone. So let me just show you here. It's kind of quick, who are we? Who is GLP? Well, we've been in the industry 17 years now and really look at sustainability as such a key driver for the power and impact that we can have with the work we're doing with brands and destinations on creating positive change to make tourism a force for good by pulling out those amazing stories. So as you see here with these points, the industry's changed, travelers have changed, and they want those unique and authentic experience, hence why we're talking about community tourism today. And destinations and brands need to change. So just a little for us, we're very well known for our storytelling. At the end, we really see this as our role and responsibility in the industry of where we can create that positive change by really impactful and stories, and I'll show you one today. But one of the topics that I wanted to go into just briefly was regenerative tourism. It's really caught a tremendous wave over the last several years as really kind of that next sustainability 2.0. And really what it boils down to is there's a real strong intent by travelers. So you can see here 2023, 66%, and now going up in 2024, 71%. It's moving in the right direction. And as I'll show you with the example film and story I'll show, really it's also the key is connecting the intent to the actual traveler decision, making those purchases mirror this intention to give back. So why storytelling? I'll just put these points up here and just talk about it in general. I think we all remember those great stories as a child, just in our industry. What are the things you remember? It's stories. They're engaging. They make you remember an experience you've had or a memory, and at the end of the day, they have a beginning and a middle and an end. Takes you on that emotional journey. We all know stories, if it's social media, if it's on television, if it's through media that we consume. At the end, storytelling is such an important vehicle. It goes away from traditional content marketing and advertising, and I think you'll see with this example I'll show you from Thailand of where it's really immersive, and you really are taken to that destination through this local story. And then looking at, same thing, I'll put the points up here, looking at regenerative tourism. So regenerative is really looking at tourism from a holistic standpoint of how can the travel industry have a positive impact, not just sustaining it, but making it better. So when travelers come, they get involved, they participate, they really become part of the fabric, and ultimately though, all the principles tied to regenerative are really looking at that holistic approach to travel, where communities are involved, the experiences that people are having have a positive impact, the local communities develop resiliency, and the community I'll show you today in Thailand, this example case study on community tourism really represents a lot of these factors. And ultimately, it's celebrating that destination, that place that is unique and special than any other place. So the story I'm going to show you here, it's on the southern coast of Thailand. It's a Muslim community that we were there for 4 days. We lived with the people, we ate meals, we were embedded in the community. We brushed our teeth with them at night. You know, we were really part of the fabric. And it really, like, we had that firsthand experience while also filming and telling the story. So going into some of the points here on some of these story elements, you know, what was the purpose? Why were we there? Why were we telling this story? Well, this community actually, when looking at tourism, as Marian said, just looking at how can they use tourism as a force for good in their local community? They had a traumatic experience about 16 years before with a tsunami in 2004. And it really devastated the community. And so really the solution was, how can we use tourism as an additional income source, an additional means of unifying the community, bringing people together, and create an additional income source for the community. But I think most importantly is they weren't dependent on tourism. So looking at that purpose, you know, why are we telling this story? It's to build resiliency within that community. The second story element, looking at that story arc. We all know at the end of the day, when we see a good story, it has successes and positive aspects, but it also has struggles, it has challenges. And that's my job in directing, is I want to pull out those struggles, the journey people have had, and really talk about how they overcame those challenges and struggles. And that's really a good story arc, where it's really going to take you on that emotional journey from beginning to end. And in this community, looking at community tourism as how it can be, like I said, a force for good. Next, the characters. Bang Hem is the gentleman here. Again, we hung out with him, we shadowed him, we hung out with he and his family for 4 full days. And, you know, at one point he just said, "Are you guys just gonna keep following me around?" And we said, "Absolutely." You know, we wanted to get his day in the life of what it's like living in this community. And that's that immersive experience of staying in homestays with local communities. And that's really ultimately the story that I'll show you on community tourism in this community. So getting those local voices, those local people. We're not looking for the top people per se. We just wanted to really show that experience beginning to end. And then lastly, the location. You'll see with the footage, we had a great location experience in this community, the beautiful mangroves, the beautiful islands off the coast, and just spending time with the family. So now we'll show the film here on Bantalay Nak in Thailand.
คือเรื่องการอนุรักษ์เราอนุรักษ์มาตั้งแต่รุ่นบรรพบุรุษครับเพราะว่ามันเป็นเหมือนกับซุปเปอร์มาร์เก็ตของชาวบ้านพวกกุ้งหอยปูปลาคือสามารถเจอในป่าชายเลนได้ทั้งหมดเลย
ป่าชายเลนเปรียบเสมือนเขาเรียกลงมาปัดน้ำเสียนี่คือความสำคัญเปรียบเสมือนลักษณะของตัวสะพานตัวเขาว่าเชื่อมโยงระบบนิเวศก็สำคัญ
คือการอนุรักษ์ไม่ใช่ว่าไม่ให้ใช้ประโยชน์เลยแต่คือให้ใช้ยังไงให้ยั่งยืนเพื่อจะได้ใช้ถึงรุ่นลูกรุ่นหลานต่อไปในอนาคต
นื่องจากป่าชายเลนชุมชนที่อยู่โดยรอบก็จะเกิดอาชีพหลากหลายมากนะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นคนขับเรือและคนตกปูคืออาชีพมันมีหลากหลายมากถ้าเราเข้าใจทรัพยากรแล้วเราก็จัดการได้
ว่าถ้ามีป่าที่สมบูรณ์ก็จะมีนักท่องเที่ยวที่มาชมมาเที่ยวตามวิถีธรรมชาติมากขึ้น
You really feel how the people live and you get to know the people who live in this country and who makes this country special.
แล้วก็บรรยากาศของน้ำทะเลที่ข้างนอกมันเขียวใสแล้วก็หมู่เกาะที่ยังเป็นธรรมชาติอยู่คือเมื่อได้ขับเรือไปเจอก็อยากจะแชร์ประสบการณ์จากที่เราได้ไปเจอแล้วสวย
I really enjoyed like getting into the handicrafts and to be able to do it myself.
เวลามีแขกมาพักที่โฮมสเตย์สนุกแล้วก็ทำให้บ้านคลึกครื้นขึ้นเหมือนกับมีเพื่อนมีญาติมาเยี่ยมเราจะไม่คิดว่าเป็นนักท่องเที่ยวมาคือทุกคนในครอบครัวต้อนรับด้วยใจจริงๆครับ
เป็นคนแถวนี้โตที่นี่ใช้ประโยชน์พึ่งพิงทรัพยากรป่าชายเลนมาตั้งเล็กจนถึงปัจจุบันมันของพวกนี้บางทีมันไม่สามารถที่จะบอกว่าคนนี้ต้องทำหรือยังไงก็ตามแต่พวกนี้มันจะเกิดจากแรงบันดาลใจที่เขาเกิดความหวงแหนเกิดความว่ามันสำคัญเขาถึงจะทำได้
มีอะไรก็ช่วยเหลือกันอย่างเช่นมีการจัดงานที่มัสยิดคนก็จะมาช่วยเหลือกันทางบ้านโดยไม่ต้องมีค่าจ้างค่าอะไรแค่เลี้ยงอาหารเขาคนที่มาเที่ยวอยากได้ไปเจอไปเห็นเหมือนกับที่เราเห็นคืออยากจะให้สัมผัสธรรมชาติที่ยังดิบอยู่ไม่ได้มีการปรุงแต่งอะไรมากมายจะได้สัมผัสธรรมชาติจริงๆครับ
So I think you can see with that story, it really shows that authentic, personal experience that you can have living with a community. And that really is the beauty of community tourism. So again, just some final points here. Travelers' expectations are really looking at regenerative, where they can give back, they can add value and make a destination better. That communication gap, like I said in the very beginning, closing it, making the intention actually result in people purchasing more. That's really the goal here. Being authentic, I think you saw with that story, with the local community, with the people. Look at those local champions. Again, Bangham was awesome. Very quiet, modest guy. And it was just so wonderful to spend that time with him. And his character really came through. Ultimately, though, we do want to have different people give different perspectives and angles on the community. And then lastly, why are you telling that story? So looking at the impact you're trying to have with travelers, with the trade, with the industry on community tourism, et cetera. So thank you again, and appreciate being here.
Thank you so much, Rob. I think it was fantastic. We're going to now take a seat. Marion, if you can join us on stage and answer a few questions. If you could.
Oh, sorry.
All right, Marion, first question is to you. As interest in sustainable and community-based tourism grows, there is a risk that increased demand could lead to sort of commercialization and unintended negative impacts. So how can we ensure that community-led tourism remains genuinely beneficial and doesn't fall into the pitfalls of mainstream tourism models?
Well, I would say that the key here is to leave the decision-making in the hands of the communities. It's not to try and enforce and tell them, tourists want this, you need to cater for 20 people. It's rather telling them what is the story you want to tell, and let them lead this and create the experience that they want to share with tourists. And if they want to take a group of 5 people once a month, then that's their decision. It's not trying to enforce something upon them.
So they are the decision makers.
Yeah.
They are setting that,
Yeah.
that goal. Rob, question to you. Beyond sort of engagement metrics, how can we measure the real-world impact of strategic storytelling on local community, and whether in terms of economic resilience, cultural preservation, or sustainability?
I would echo just the having that local impact of local communities really seeing the benefit of tourism and how not just short-term but long-term, just with tourism in general and community tourism. You can have all the metrics in the world, but at the end of the day, when the local people see the positive impact that tourism is having, community-led or community-based tourism, at the end of the day, their voice is important. In the film, we actually reached out during COVID, because this film was produced just before COVID, and we reached out and said, hey, how are things going? Because tourism is shut down. And they actually said, we're doing fine, because they weren't over-dependent on tourism. It was a portion of them. So that resiliency, I think, is really important at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Marion, one of the things on your slides was economic leakage that you sort of alluded to, and many destinations are struggling with that. So how can destinations and tourism businesses actively measure and reduce that while ensuring that it's more beneficial to the communities and it stays there?
I think it comes down to finding locally owned businesses. So whether it's a community or whether it's a small business that's really owned by locals, that's the way to ensure that it stays in the ecosystem rather than using the big groups, using big chain hotels, etc., which tends to send the money back into the countries where the travelers came from.
Rob, you talked a lot about storytelling, and this is, I work a lot in the hospitality space, and we use that word a lot, especially now with lifestyle brands and etc. So I think it's a very, very powerful tool. Can you also see where its use is not really beneficial, and how to sort of mitigate that? Because we want that to be that positive effect, right? Telling the stories of the people. So how do we make sure that it still carries that positive note?
I would say, kind of the elements that I presented, making sure you have a real strong purpose in why you're creating that story.
And that impact, I guess, right?
Yeah, and just the people that you select that are going to carry that narrative through. And then ultimately, what are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals here? And I will say a lot of times we have to kind of push off the CEO, push off the sales team, the marketing team.
Yeah.
We want the people that are living and breathing that experience, that product, that destination from their heart. And so really we try to make sure we're choosing the right voices that ultimately are going to tell the best story and not just promoting it, so to speak.
With Eoghan, Marion, what are your goals for the next, let's say, 5 years when you look at developing more partnerships? What are you working on that's already in plan, and what's the future looking like?
Well, what we're looking at is really trying to go one step further into the supply chain. So our model is to put travelers in touch with local DMCs and agencies, but Planetary was the first step of going one step further and seeing how can we create this connection between, here in this case, communities and the local agencies on the ground, and create this interest. And then actually the fact is a lot of the travel agencies actually tell us, oh, there's also these other communities we work with, and it just goes back into the network. So this is what we're working on, and trying to spot other type of positive, nature-positive experiences, specific accommodations, and trying to also help this connection destination by destination.
Rob, last question to you. I said I will not ask you about US politics, and I don't want to end this on a terrible note. So tell us about what positive stories you're working on right now. What is currently in production? What are you doing in terms of this great storytelling? Something positive you can leave us with? Yeah,
no, we actually in just about 10 days will be in southern Chile, doing 3 different stories. One on indigenous communities, really embracing adventure travel, mountain biking in particular. A second story is looking at kind of outdoor and conservation. And then a third story is we're pulling in just a lot of big NGOs and nonprofits, because it's a story on a valley, Cochimo Valley in the Lake District in kind of southern Chile, on why this region needs to be protected for future generations. And so I think for us, we're really trying to move the needle with these destinations to really look beyond just tourism and how tourism needs to work with conservation, needs to work with other industries, and see beyond just trying to do heads and beds, so to speak. So we're really excited. We'll be there in a couple weeks.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a beautiful and positive note to end on. So let's thank Marion and Rob up here, and thank you everyone for listening.